Hello, hello. How are we doing on this greyish Monday afternoon? I hope we are well. Um, Probably be a little calmer this week in terms of the streaming. I did go a little bit bananas last week, which is probably a good thing. But I said it was a quieter week at work, and I streamed most days, to be honest. Not sure I'll be able to keep up that momentum this week, or I may burn out. But oh well. Let's try and avoid that if we can. Uh, I will do a quick shout out straight away to wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Um, Good grief. I will shout out the awesome K of the double K who has just done a raid with 24 people. You absolute freaking legend. And thank you so much, Animon Economist, this morning for gathering a party before venturing forth. You are all very, very awesome people, so thank you so much for that. Getting so close to affiliate. You rock. In fact, I'll give you, let's see if it wants to work today. We'll give you some Mac symbols. You're that cool. You get a laser show for that. Yes, if you've not discovered that, if you stream on a Mac, you can just do hand gestures and it does shit. Yeah. It's cool. I love Macs. Came with the raid, but ate the cookies on the way. Cookies are good. Cookies are good. Yeah, despite this being a lunch chat, I have never actually eaten on stream before. I try not to. I think it'd be very messy, especially with a beard. I feel it risks the fact I'm going to spend an entire stream, with like yogurt or, breadcrumbs in my beard. It's probably not a great look. Oh dear. Thank you. You are all just awesome people. Thank you, Gonki Army. You are legends, every single one of you. Or legends, either way, not sure. Completely lost my train of thought, whatever it was I was talking about. Yeah, I'm good. I'm not too bad. The weather is all over the show. The weather really is. It was really cold last week and warmed up a little bit, and now it's just cold and grey and wet and miserable again. Go on, give us proper Christmas weather. I like it kind of cold, crisp. That's a really nice, weather. But the kind of grey and kind of meh, it's kind of rubbish. But oh well. So what's going on? Well, the weekend was an interesting one. It was meant to be quiet, and then inevitably, because we have a 4-year-old, she had other plans. So on Monday we had a little bit of a health scare. Nothing horrendous, but any health scare with a little one is, it just puts you on edge. So essentially, I'm not going to give too much on this one, but for those who don't know, when I was 5, going on 6, I had a big old health scare. So I had a kidney that just failed, just completely failed. Apparently it never worked properly. We didn't realise till I was like 5, going on 6. So I was in hospital. I was in Great Ormond Street. I had the kidney taken out. I was tested like every year afterwards, every 2 years and every 5 years. My other kidney does work, but it is malformed in the shape of Cyprus, so or so I'm told. So I have to be careful with how I drink and stuff like that. And we don't think it's hereditary, though my paternal grandmother did have some issues with one of her kidneys. But like my brother and other close family members were checked when I went to the hospital as a kid. But we were just talking to my mum like the weekend before that. Little one's, it's not a lot while off, so we probably should, check her in at the doctor's just to ask for some tests, just to make sure there's nothing wrong. Not that I expect there will be. And then something happened Saturday morning that gave us a little bit of a scare. And it was like, oh, did we jinx this? Did we do this? So we immediately panic, flapping, stuff like that. She's fine, But there was a couple of hours of, absolute panic, as happens anytime little one gets sick, when it's not just another cold, as we were talking about this morning. My 4-year-old, like all, picks up any germ that's going, I swear to God. But you know. But she's all right. She's fine. We're just, you know, if I had hair, you know, a bit more of it would have fallen out. Good grief. I'm just looking at the chat here and the people in the room. I don't think I've ever had this many people in the room before. So thank you so much for the raid. You are just awesome, awesome people. Thank you. So other than having the bejesus scared out of me, what has been going on? Well, a little self-promotion thing. So for those who don't know, I write tabletop RPG content. I write a load of stuff. If you want to have a gander, go to dcbradshaw.com. But one of my main kind of flagship things I've been working on is something called Little But Fierce. That was released a year and a bit ago, which is essentially a complete rewrite of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition to make it accessible for kids. So the language is simplified, the rules are streamlined a bit. We've removed some of the unpleasant tropes that have snuck in over the years to Dungeons & Dragons. So I released a starter edition, which is very nearly a gold bestseller on DriveThruRPG, which is just fantastic. We're like about 26 sales away or something like that, so it's really cool. And now I've been working on various expansions to add on additional classes, additional content, generally all of them got a theme. And at some point in the next couple of years, I'm actually going to do a full-on, whether it's a Kickstarter or another crowdfunder, I'm going to do a physical release, which will be very, very cool. But the next expansion for it is finally almost ready. It's called Blunderlings. It's got a kind of Dungeon Keeper, Despicable Me Minions kind of a vibe to it. So as in slightly foolish lackeys who aren't really that scary. I've been working on this one for like a year. And I basically finished it like a year ago. And then I said, right, I'm going to do a playtesting one-shot for this one. And dragged my heels writing this damn one-shot. And then got distracted by other projects. And then, you know, and then some legitimate procrastination because we like moved house and stuff like that. No, thank you, Sam Size, so much for sticking around. I really do appreciate it. So, you know, just popping in, saying hey, chatting, you know, is always appreciated. So that means a huge amount. So thank you so much. So yeah, so got distracted from releasing this thing, and now finally finished the damn thing. Yeah, so I've written it. I'm almost done with proofread of it. I just need to balance some of the difficulties a little bit and the one shot, and then I'm hoping to run it. So because the new class that's being added to that, which is, I call it the Scout. It's kind of based on the Ranger, but because there's a lot of versions of Ranger out there, and the version in the core 5e rules it's got some issues with it. I really do want to play test it as a proper one shot. I figured now that I'm streaming, I'll do it as my first streamed game that I'm doing the tech for. I have done a live one shot before, and that was on Maori Nerd's channel, but fortunately he did the tech for me. This time, now I'm up and running with streaming properly, I'm going to try and do the tech as well. I'm hoping to do that. It's not going to happen before Christmas, so who am I kidding? Early in the new year, and that will be very, very cool. And then the release of that soon after. The other exciting streaming thing, which is an ambitious and stupid idea, is I want to do a live book read. This is really I've always liked the idea of doing it, and I've been kind of inspired by people like Neil Gaiman doing. He does like Christmas Carol and stuff like that, and Andy Serkis did the Hobbit read. I thought, let's choose a public domain book and do a charity book read. I will need to have lots of drinks available to make sure my throat is okay on this one. And I put it out as a poll the other day about which of these public domain books would be the most interesting you'd like to listen to. And I said Treasure Island, Dracula, and Frankenstein. It looked like Frankenstein was going to win this one, but Dracula pulled through at the end. I'll probably do another poll after Christmas to confirm exactly what it's going to be in arrangements. And I need to figure out how you do like a streamed, like crowdfunding, not crowdfunding, with like the little status bar coming up. I could do it through a Ko-Fi integration, but I think there are better ways of doing it for charity. And I need to figure out which charity is going to raise money for. I mean, it'll probably be stuff supporting, Ukraine, Palestine, but we'll see, Now, I've had a Google. Apparently, the full unabridged audiobooks, not dramatized, of Dracula are about 8 hours long. Generally, so that's going to be quite something to do that. I mean, it's doable in a day. I had to figure out arrangements of what happens, because obviously getting a window where I can do that without having a toddler run into the room will be challenging, so I have to figure that out with my wife. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun. Hope to raise some money doing it. Providing my voice doesn't give out. Oh, I'll absolutely need breaks. There will be comfort breaks, there'll be lunch breaks and stuff like that doing it. But I don't want to do... I mean, I originally thought it might be fun to do like a chapter, you know, a day or a chapter or something like that. But I think it would be cool to try and do it in a day. But we'll see. We'll see, you know. I mean, I was a teacher, so I'm very used to talking for very, very long amounts of time. And with a 4-year-old, I'm used to doing cold reading. I mean, that is good grief. You know, for people not done a lot of cold reading, just picking up books and reading them aloud that you've never read before. Having a kid, you learn on your feet very quickly how to do that. My biggest concern with things like Dracula and Frankenstein is I'm going to have to Google pronunciation of some of the locations because I don't want to make an absolute tit of myself. This one. Tag team is an interesting one, and I could maybe see if some people want to do, you know, if we maybe have some cameos in there to take on a chapter or something along the way. That's an idea. That is an idea. I need to think on the specifics of this one. It will require a bit more brainstorming. And while it won't be obviously audiobook quality, I'm tempted, whatever I get at the end of it, to, you know, tidy up, clean it up, and I'll, you know, pop it on YouTube for free. I'll see if I can upload the audio as well somewhere else. But that'd be cool. That'd be cool. And I'm excited to do that, but I need to work on the specifics, because what I don't want to do is commit to it and realise that I've just shot myself in the foot with a ludicrously ambitious thing to do. Equally, I'm going to have to raise a bit of hype about it, because it will be a shame to do it and no one bloody show up. But you are awesome people, so I will let you know when I'm doing it, so you can, you know, wave some flags and banners. And like I said, it'll be for charity, which will be cool. So what else? What else? Well, quick BG3 update. So I have just finished my second run through of Baldur's Gate 3. Hello, Photostyle. How are we doing? You're good? I'm just talking about where we're at with Baldur's Gate 3 without spoilers. So like I said, I've just finished my second run through of it. And to be honest, it's rare that I manage to play a game and then immediately play it through again. Yeah, but it is that. Really is. So I did my first run through of a kind of normalish sort of run through of how I would do it with my kind of sense of morality, and I've just done a Dark Urge evil playthrough, which was interesting because they've oh, you're never interrupting, don't be silly. That was, I mean, it's interesting because they've clearly thought about it, which is nice. The one problem with the original Baldur's Gate games is you couldn't really do an evil playthrough. I mean, you could, but you generally just broke the game because they didn't really give you the free... They didn't give you the correct consequences and channels to do evil versions of the plot. That was the thing. You know, you could kill people. You know, you could, you know, go absolutely bananas. But eventually, there was, even in Baldur's Gate 2, there was a mechanism in place. Like, you had to make a choice at some point during Baldur's Gate 2, essentially, which guild you sided with, whether it was the Thieves Guild or the Vampires. And largely speaking, the Vampires were the evil option. But if you betrayed both of them, an NPC popped that I can't even remember his name, who basically just auto-killed you. Because you'd just broken the game. So that's not great. That's not great. But they've thought about it. Are you in Vikings? I am not. I am not. My beard is getting long though. My beard is getting long. I need to trim that. Otherwise it doesn't look kind of Viking-ish. And then I just go back to, you know, pure Walter White kind of look. Which is not intentional, but, you know, I don't have any hair, so I've got to do something, yeah, to make my face interesting. Yeah, BG3, they've thought about it. You know, there's some good stuff you can do. And being a Dark Urge in it doesn't mean you have to go evil. In fact, I think there's a very interesting plot there if you resist the Dark Urge and go good with it. Act 3 was interesting, though, and I'm not going to spoil it because it is still a relatively recent game. And especially for people on the Mac, you know, and people are going to be playing on Xbox. You haven't got it out yet. So I don't want to spoil it too much, but I was a little disappointed in the epilogue with the route I took. It felt like, I mean, it was fine, but I think they could have done more of it, and that was a little bit of the shame. You know, but we'll see. You know, you get so much freedom. I can't expect everything to tie up as well as you would hope. But you know, I had a really good time. I had a really good time. So what I'm doing for my third playthrough, and this is kind of crazy that I'm doing a third playthrough as well, is I'm trying one of the Origin playthroughs on this one. So that's interesting. The fact that they made the game so that you can just play as one of the pre-made NPCs, and they voiced it accordingly. So that's interesting. I want to see all the little bits and pieces that opens up. So specifically, I'm playing as Lae'zel, who I'm respecing into a monk, and we'll see with that. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So the main thing I wanted to talk about today, he starts a sentence and takes a drink. I'll try not to do that. Is a little bit on the back of what the other thing that happened this weekend, which was the start of the Doctor Who anniversary stuff. Now, I'll say there's going to be no spoilers on this one. One of the reasons, well, one, spoilers, so do that. But also, the fact is, I haven't watched it yet. So we were visiting my father-in-law, and he had it on in the background, but wasn't really watching it. And yeah, so I've seen little snippets of it, but I do need to actually sit down and watch it. And I am a moderate Doctor Who fan, I would say. You know, there's some seasons I've seen all of. There are some I've seen very little of. I try and keep vaguely abreast of what's going on with it, but I'm, you know, a hyper fanboy of Doctor Who. But I will definitely watch the anniversary stuff because I think it's worth watching when you hit a big old milestone like that. And David Tennant's awesome, can't get around that. But it made me think about, you know, kind of these kind of big franchise anniversary stuff. I mean, I did watch the 50th, so this is the 60th, right? So I did watch the 50th stuff, which was the Day of the Doctor 10 years ago. And I had I seen all the Matt Smith stuff? Yeah, I think I did watch all the Matt Smith stuff. So that was cool. That was cool. I do a little bit of catching up to get to that one. So I really, really enjoyed Day of the Doctor. I think they did a really good job with that. And bringing John Hurt made that kind of really exciting. And it was definitely a very special episode, you know, that they wouldn't normally have quite done something like that. But I think they did a really good job with that. And they brought back, in the prequel mini-sode, they brought back Paul McGann, who I have a lot of time for Paul McGann in the Eighth Doctor. People talk about who was their Doctor, you know, the one they watched as a kid. And now I am... God, how old am I? 38. So I didn't really watch Doctor Who as a kid. There were, you know, some kind of, you know, reruns shown on the Beeb, but I don't really remember sitting down and watching Doctor Who as a kid. So when the TV movie came out in '96 with Paul McGann, that came out, and I was the kind of right age to watch it, and I really, really enjoyed that. So the fact they didn't go with that, I always thought was a bit disappointing, though it would have gone in a completely different direction. Because I think that was BBC working with America. So I think if they'd gone with it, it would have become a very American franchise. So none of the new stuff, it's been around for quite a while now, but none of the kind of new Who, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, Ncuti Gatwa stuff wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if they'd run with that. But I do have a lot of time for Paul McGann as the Eighth Doctor. But it made me think about kind of other franchises, you know, on this. And the big one to obviously talk about is Star Trek. That's another one that has made a point of celebrating big anniversaries, or certainly did. I remember when I was a kid, oh God, yeah, so we're going back almost 30 years on this one. It was the 30th anniversary of Star Trek, and they did quite a lot of stuff related to that. They did, I think it was on BBC Two, I want to say, here in the UK. They did like a whole night of stuff, and they had some specials related to it, you know, celebrating the franchise. I remember they did a quiz, which had John Culshaw doing various impressions of various Star Trek actors, and I think it was they also premiered Voyager that night. It was the first episode of Voyager, which, God, it's making me feel old that could be like almost 30 years ago, because we are approaching the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. But they did do two kind of special episodes for the 30th anniversary of Star Trek. One of which I didn't kind of realise at the time was Does that work? That timer? That can't work. That can't have been the premiere of Voyager. Maybe that was a different anniversary. Maybe that was 25th or something like that. Maybe I've got my timelines wrong. Because I remember they did 2 specials to commemorate, I want to say the 30th, which was Trials and Tribulations, which is where they obviously had the Deep Space Nine episode where they go back to the Trouble with Tribbles. And it was very early, kind of, it wasn't early green screen stuff, but doing it on TV, you know, in that sense, it was kind of early and groundbreaking. And they inserted the actors into existing footage quite well. But also, they did Flashback, which was a Voyager episode where they go back to the Excelsior and have Sulu in it. So it can't have been the premiere of Voyager. The question is, when the heck was that? That must have been 25th. That must have been 25th. So let's just Google this quickly. Flashback Voyager. Is that around like the 4th or 5th season? When is it? It is season 3. So it was premiered on the evening in 1996. So 96 would be the 30th. So when did they first premiere Voyager? When did Voyager come out then? On the Beeb? Well, it must have been for like the 25th or something like that. That timing still doesn't make sense. It's weird. You think about this stuff when you get a little bit older and you're trying to figure out the logic behind this stuff. Because I was absolutely adamant on this when I was thinking about what I was going to say. So when did Voyager came out in January 16th, 1995. And Flashback was 90. This timeline does not make sense. Did they just rush the first 3 seasons of Voyager? That feels like it doesn't make sense. I mean, January 95 up to, what was that, September 96 for the 3rd season? 2nd episode of the 3rd season? Maybe it does track. So maybe we were just a bit late on it. Maybe this is why I didn't realise that Flashback was to celebrate the anniversary, because we were getting stuff later. That was the thing. You know, I'm not going to try and sound like an old man on this one, but there is an element of this which, for younger people, does seem kind of weird. In that, back in the 90s, there was a huge delay between like TV hitting the screen in America and hitting the screen in the UK. You know, I certainly with terrestrial, you know, it was a bit different with Sky, which I remember in that we moved house. I can't remember when exactly it was. Probably around the 4th season of Voyager, because we moved house from a house that we'd never had Sky. You know, parents didn't want it. It's fair enough. It was expensive, very expensive back then. Still is. And we moved to a house that already had like a Sky dish, and we decided to have Sky because it was all the stuff was there. So my knowledge of Voyager jumped. There was a huge chunk that it jumped from what I'd seen on BBC Two, jumping onto what was on Sky One. I jumped into the Killing Game, and that was my first introduction to 7 of 9. So I must have jumped like best part of a season between terrestrial broadcast on BBC Two and what was on Sky One, which I think was in line with what was being shown in America. So maybe that timeline does make sense. Maybe they held off the premiere, the UK terrestrial premiere of Voyager, to be the 30th anniversary, and then simultaneously in the States, more or less that year, there was also like a 3rd season episode. I mean, that seems weird, but looking at the dates here, it does seem about right, which is strange. But Flashback, it was a pretty good episode. It was nice to have Sulu in it. I think it was mainly a nod for fans of the movies, of the original series movies, which, you know, I watched quite a bit of the original series because my mum's a big Star Trek fan. But I didn't see the movies until much, much later, whereas I kind of knew Next Generation and saw all the Next Generation movies more or less when they came out, except not all in December. And then I think I saw all of DS9 and Voyager as they went on. But I think Flashback is more of a nod to those movies with Sulu and the Excelsior and the red uniforms. I forget, what's the Monster Maroons, that's what they call them, which is a great name. Nickname for a uniform, very silly. But yeah, that was the 30th anniversary. And we're coming up on the 60th anniversary, and there's a lot of Star Trek right now. So I'm kind of curious what they're going to do for that one, because I think it depends what shows are on 60th anniversary, because obviously we've got quite a lot going on. We've got Lower Decks is still going. Discovery will have finished by then. Strange New Worlds will be on. The Writer's Strike stuff, in theory it's over, but given the AI stuff that's still in the draft version of the Actors Agreement, I don't think it's quite as done as people think it is. I have to wonder if there's still going to be some delays on this one. But Strange New Worlds should be back on that. And the question is whether we get Star Trek Legacy. You know, for those who watch Picard season 3, that is a heck of a setup for a spin-off show which Terry Matalas is called Star Trek Legacy. And I really want to see that. I really do. Sorry, Picard season 3 has been out for a while now, so I think I'm okay spoiling this one. But the ending is that you got 7 of 9 as captain of the Enterprise, which is awesome, which is just awesome. So that would be a really good show, and given the timelines, you could have that show, if they greenlight it. I mean, they'd be fools not to, but if they greenlight it, that show could be on the air for the 60th anniversary, and I think that's got huge potential. You know, I mean, admittedly, it's going to be a very special episode where you do that, but I think you could have an awful lot of fun with a kind of, whether it's time travel, but I think maybe holodeck type stuff, something along the lines of where you could bring back previous Enterprise captains in some sort of manner. I think that would be a really nice nod for the 60th anniversary. Yeah, you could bring back Shatner, you know, who didn't get to be in the J.J. Abrams movies. You could bring back Picard again. You know, it'd be nice to see kind of Janeway, not just a vocal cameo. Oh, she's not even a cameo in Prodigy. She's a lead character. But it'd be nice to see her actually like Janeway in the flesh again. And the one, this is again one of these weird kind of, I mean, very geeky deep cuts on this one. I would like to see John Ruck, who played Captain John Harriman, Captain of the Enterprise B at the start of Generations. I would like to see him come back. If you're going to do a kind of bring in all the Enterprise captains, I think that'd be a lot of fun. I mean, I think a lot of people know Alan Ruck from Ferris Bueller. I certainly know him as Stuart from Spin City, and I believe he's in Succession, which I've not seen, but I've heard is absolutely awesome. And he's had a bit of a revival in that one. I think he'd be up for it. I think he did a fan film at some point, or one of these high-budget Star Trek fan films that managed to actually get in Star Trek actors. I think he did one of them. So I think if they did something like this, I think it'd be really fun to see him do something with his character. And I'm not sure what the plot would be, you know. You don't want to resist it being like a kind of a 5 Doctor thing where everyone has to save the ship in their own timeline. I think that could be a little bit cliche at this stage. But I think if you'd had a kind of, you know, 7 of 9 has got her own kind of, not Kobayashi Maru, because that's overused now, but some sort of dilemma where she's getting advice from other captains. You know, it doesn't need to be a huge thing, you know, where they all have to have a giant amount of screen time, but it might be nice if she is using the holodeck to talk to previous captains to get their own spin on this situation. That might be a nice way to do a nod to that without it becoming absolutely bananas. Because there's a risk if you've got all these people somehow in it at the same time, you know, it just becomes a bit of a mess. But I think that could be a lot of fun, something along those lines. And I think it'd be foolish not to do something fun to celebrate the 60th anniversary. I guess the question with these things is, where do you go after 60th? Do you do 70th, 80th, 90th, or do you jump to 75 and then wait for a very big number, you know, when the franchises turn 100? But we shall see. We shall see. Right. Where are we at? Well, we've got about a little under 15 minutes left. Might not go all the way to the hour. We'll see how we get on. I do have work to get on with, sadly, but I can go for a little bit longer on this one. So I'll open up, because we have a lot of people in the stream, let's open up on a potentially divisive question on this one, but let's see what we think on this one. You know, I mentioned in a stream a couple of weeks back that we've actually put our Christmas tree up, and for me that is early. I've always been a Christmas decorations and Christmas in general doesn't start until at least December, but I think everyone is feeling quite down right now, and it's been a very hectic time in our household. So we needed a little boost. So we had my little one's birthday because that's an absolute no. We don't do Christmas for my daughter's birthday. And then we decided, we're going to put the decorations up. But we haven't gone full Christmas yet. Admittedly, there has been some Baileys that has been drunk in this house. It seems to have become a tradition that Christmas equals Baileys in our house, but inevitably, if we're wrapping presents, there will probably be a glass of Baileys. And it's sneaking out already, especially with the cold weather. Make a hot chocolate with some Baileys in it and a bit of whipped cream on the top of that. That's nice. And mulled wine, there has been... if you see a recycling bin outside the front of my house, there's been quite a lot of mulled wine drunk in this house. Sadly, no mulled cider. That is something that I've not found a good, cheap place to get. There was a wonderful 2-year period where Lidl did an amazing Woodgate mulled cider, and it was so good that it was selling out. But literally, anytime we go into Lidl, people were grabbing the last couple of bottles of it. And then it disappeared completely, despite that it clearly sold incredibly well. So either they went bankrupt, or it was actually antifreeze, or something like that. And yes, that is definitely a reference to the Simpsons episode with the wine in France. But it was good. Mulled cider is fantastic. I used to live in Edinburgh, and later Falkirk, so just a quick train journey from Edinburgh. And their Christmas markets inevitably have an awful lot of mulled cider. Mulled wine is good. I'm not going to knock mulled wine, because, I do like mulled wine quite a lot. But mulled cider is even better. Absolutely fantastic stuff. But anyway, rather than just being alcoholic, Christmas in general. So the question for you. So Christmas has sort of started in our house. The tree is up. Warm winter beverages are being consumed. So the question is, go-to Christmas movies. Because we haven't watched any yet. What are your go-to Christmas movies? And I'm not going to have a debate here about what constitutes a Christmas movie or not, because I will absolutely say I do watch Die Hard most Christmases. Whether it's officially a Christmas movie or not, I don't know. But if it makes you feel festive and, go for it. Absolutely go for it. I mean, so Die Hard is definitely one that is watched in our house most Christmases. Home Alone is definitely a go-to for us. That inevitably is on while we are, wrapping presents or something like that. So what have we got here? Photo style. Die Hard, Muppets Christmas Carol, Original Grinch. When you say Original Grinch, do you mean the cartoon, or because I think they've even the cartoon? There's the Jim Carrey one. I think, is there a newer one? I'm sure I heard someone mention a newer one as well. But I think those are good shouts. Die Hard, great. Muppets Christmas Carol is a lot of fun. It really is. I think I've not actually seen that many of the Muppets movies, I must admit, but Muppets Christmas Carol and Muppets Treasure Island are both absolutely fantastic. Really well done. And I think people have probably seen these kind of meme going around. It's a meme officially, but still, why those two films are so good, so to say, this JPEG, is that Michael Caine treats the other Muppets like fellow actors, and Treasure Island is so good because Tim Curry thinks he's a fellow Muppet. And I absolutely agree with that. That definitely gives the feel and the vibe of why those performances are just so bloody strong. Die Hard, Christmas Carol, Original Grinch. Grinch is good. It really is. I think the first place I saw some of the Grinch is actually in Home Alone. Is it the first or the second Home Alone where he actually watches a bit of the cartoon of the Grinch in that? But I have seen the cartoon and the Jim Carrey one. Original 1966 Grinch. Good stuff. Good stuff. What else is on my list there? Gremlins. I do like Gremlins. I have to consider. I've got to think about this one carefully, whether we watch Gremlins in our house. Well, or if we do, essentially whether it's pre or post little one going to bed. Because I think Gremlins can be quite scary. for little kids. It's definitely of that era of movies where I think officially it's like a PG or something like that. But bits of Gremlins are bloody terrifying for small kids. Like when what's the bad guy in Gremlins? Is he called Spike or Stripe? I can't remember. I think it's Stripe. But he throws like buzzsaw blades at Gizmo, and there's a gremlin that gets put in the microwave and explodes. Yeah, there's some grisly stuff in that for little kids. So I think that one might be watched once the little one's gone to bed. But I do love Gremlins. I really do. And the music of Gremlins is wonderful. You know, such a good one, and yet it does have the sad scene in it, which is parodied wonderfully in the sequel. I've only seen the sequel a couple of times, but really good films on that one. What else have we got? We've got a few people in the room here. What other go-to Christmas movies have you got? I mean, Die Hard is an absolute classic. Home Alone is fantastic, really is. And I would recommend, if you have not watched it, Netflix did a series called The Movies That Made Us, and they did a run of those episodes about Christmas movies. And the making of Home Alone is absolutely fascinating. It really is. Even if you're not like a big cinephile and don't go in for behind the scenes and stuff like that, because they tell the story from how it got pitched to how it got made. And there's just some weird stuff in that one. Like, so the making of Home Alone, so there's a few oddities in there. Like, for example, I can't remember which studio originally was making it, but Us Studio was originally making it for a certain price. They realised it was getting too expensive and binned it. They said, no, shut down, we're done. And there were some backroom deals going on. Like, someone had snuck a copy of the script to like an executive at like 20th Century Fox or something like that, who's one of his mates. And they basically said, yeah, when you get cancelled because they're being stingy with money, yeah, pick up the phone, we'll pick up your movie and we'll just keep running with it. Yeah, there's weird stuff that happened in the making of that. And also, it was shot in a school. So it was kind of originally pitched as like a John Hughes film. And they actually shot it in the school that they shot a lot of the John Hughes films in, which was disused. But they built the house, like the main McAllister house, like the inside of it. I mean, clearly the exterior is the exterior of a real house. But the interior of the McAllister house in Home Alone was built in the gym, you know, like the gymnasium of this old school. So they had enough space to take out walls and, you know, put in cameras and stuff like that. And then the flooded house at the end of it. So, you know, when Kevin flees and goes through the next door neighbour's house that the Wet Bandits have flooded, that was similarly shot in the school, built into the swimming pool. The school had a swimming pool, so they had a room that could contain water. So they built this flooded basement set in an actual swimming pool, which makes absolute sense. And that's loads of weird anecdotes about making it. You know, about, you know, actors who came and went, and the fact they, you know, didn't even realise it was going to be a hit at all, and it became an absolutely gigantic hit. You know, to how they did the filming of it with you know, how they did the stunts. You know, lots and lots of crazy stunts in Home Alone that were incredibly dangerous. So I would well recommend that. Really fascinating. Like I said, even if you're not a kind of cinephile, behind the scenes junkie like I am, you know, really interesting. There's a whole load of them. You know, the Die Hard one is interesting as well. Like they thought, I nearly said Bruce Wayne, John McClane, actor's name, Bruce Willis. They didn't think Bruce Willis was going to be marketable because at the time he'd only done like moonlighting and stuff like that. So he was not an action leading man, which is weird because to me he's always been an action kind of leading man. But at the time, he was known for doing kind of soppy work. So they were literally starting to advertise the film without his face on it because they thought, you know, that rather than drawing people in to see the film, it might actually make people go, nah, we're not seeing an action film with that guy with new lighting. You know, absolutely fascinating. I can't remember which other Christmas films they did in that one. Movies that made us. They did a string about horror movies as well. Those ones are also quite interesting, I'm not going to lie. Oh, it's not specifically Christmas ones that first season was. So the ones they had done are Dirty Dancing, which I have seen the behind the scenes of, because my wife quite likes Dirty Dancing. Home Alone, fascinating. Ghostbusters, that was interesting. Die Hard, that was good. Back to the Future, one is very, very interesting. Pretty Woman, not watched that one. Jurassic Park, that's good. Forrest Gump, that's good. And then they did a whole string of they're not all horror ones, but the final season they did was Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, RoboCop, Aliens, Coming to America, Nightmare Before Christmas, and Elf. And I've seen a few of them. Night Before Christmas one is quite interesting, especially because of the Tim Burton of it all. You know, Nightmare Before Christmas, literally the title is Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas. And Tim Burton was not really involved that much in making it. I think he wrote it, but he didn't direct it. I can't even remember the actual director's name. Henry Selick. The story is by Tim Burton. He technically produced it, but he wasn't even there. He was shooting something else. I want to say Batman Returns at the same time. So he would kind of pop in now and again to see how it was going. But it's weird, isn't it? Because Nightmare Before Christmas is so... What I would think was, that's really Tim Burton. And it is. And yet it's not his film. And he's taken an awful lot of credit for something that wasn't actually his. Interesting though. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. So let's start to wrap this up, because sadly I do have a day job to get back to. It does pay my half of the bills. So let's wrap this one up. So first of all, thank you so much for the raid. You are all absolutely freaking awesome people. Thank you so much, Kay and Kat, for leading the charge on that one. Thank you, Imon Economist, for leading your own little charge this morning, and I very much appreciate it. How are we doing on followers? Let's get a count if we can. We are up to 45, so we're nearly at the 50 needed for affiliate. And your chatting all in the stream there has undoubtedly done some good towards getting towards that affiliate goal. So thank you so much for that. You are all absolutely wonderful people. If you enjoyed it and you have subscribed, please rock it whenever you can. I always do Monday lunchtime. I try and do other lunchtimes as well. I want to get a habit. I've done some writing streams, and I want to do more gaming streams in the evening. That's just me getting organised and getting into a rhythm of these things. I don't want to overcommit to it, because I do have a day job. I do have a 4-year-old, both of which take up an awful lot of my time, understandably. What else? Little But Fierce, nearly gold bestseller. So if that's of interest, or people who are interested in that, want to play D&D with their kids, please take a look at that. I will chuck a link in the chat here if that is of interest. And you're welcome to look at the rest of my scribblings as well. What else? Find me on socials. I tend to be DC Bradshaw everywhere except Twitter, where I'm Curious Penguin. I have Patreon, I have Ko-Fi. Links to Ko-Fi is up there. Patreon is the same, DC Bradshaw RPG. Feel free to contribute if that is something you want to do. If not, absolutely no offense taken. You're all awesome people, regardless of anything related to money. So thank you so much for all of that. I think that's about it. So thank you so much for joining me. You're absolutely legendary people. And let's see if there is someone we can do a raid for. Let's have a look. Well, it looks like Cypher of Tyr is streaming some Baldur's Gate 3. I'm not quite sure what her raid settings are, so we'll see if we're able to raid or not. If we can, please join Cypher's stream. Cypher is an absolute legend. I'll call it a close there. So let's see if we can do a raid. Use raid Cypher of Tyr. We're looking pretty good on this one. So ready to raid in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take care, folks. Bye bye.